Cavalier faithful, welcome back on into the Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. Cavs Encapsulated crew, Jeffrey here, Justin next to me, Logan down below. Three guys being dudes talking Cavs. Not a lot of greatness to report, guys, since our last episode. 15-game win streak hangover, some are saying. Just maybe not good basketball. I think Justin alluded to this too as well, in some of our previous episodes, that maybe we weren't playing very good in some of the games we won on the winning streak, but we've just developed that reputation to be able to win. But since the last time we talked to you, 108-103 loss to the Orlando Magic, 132-119 loss to the Clippers, and last night 123-119 loss to the Sacramento Kings. The West Coast road trip has not been kind to us. Logan, let's diagnose some of the issues. I mean, you were talking a little bit last night and maybe for the Clippers game as well. Just curious to hear your thoughts on what you've been seeing.
I'll start with this. March 20th.
Okay.
It's March 20th, and I would say this is the first time that I'm actually like, oh, yeah, that just wasn't very good, was it? I'm not going to overreact. And honestly, if I'm being totally honest, I didn't want us to go too cocky or too confident into the playoffs. I do think at the end of the day, this is a good thing for the Cavs to lose a couple of ball games, especially last night where I texted you guys, that's just simply a horrendous loss. I mean, there isn't really an excuse for that one. That was definitely the first time this year where we're like, okay, really? But I'm going to try not to overreact. I mean, the team has been winning a lot of ball games. I do think that if there's one thing I could say I'm concerned about is that this is the wrong time, I think, to be losing ball games. You kind of should be peaking. But I also said last week I don't want to be a hypocrite. I said I don't really care how much we win or lose from here on out. I want just to stay healthy. But I would say that as far as themes that we've been seeing, obviously in the month of March, it has not been the month of Donovan Mitchell. He struggled, I would say, again last night, kind of maybe inserting himself at the end, which, yeah, you want your stars to insert themselves. But when a guy like Evan Mobley is going crazy in the second, third, and fourth quarters, you'd like to see the ball maybe in his hands or maybe get some easier things down low. I mean, Valanciunas definitely kicked our butt. Definitely a guy I wanted at the trade deadline. But I would just say, I think we've gotten away a little bit from what makes us successful, and that's kind of that team aspect, moving the ball. Anybody on our team can hurt you. I think we've kind of shown our hand a few times the last few games. It's like, Donovan, a lot of Donovan ISOs. And I'm not saying that's Kenny's fault. I'm not saying that's even Donovan's fault. Sometimes it's the flow of the game and things happen. I will just say, I'm not concerned, but I don't love that. I guess I'm seeing that this team isn't completely perfect. I mean, like I said, not going to react. It took a long time for me to kind of say, yeah, that was a bad week. But, yeah, definitely some things to unpack and kind of think about as you head into the big games in April.
Yeah, I think the important point there is Valanciunas, Zubac, just killing us. I mean, I'm glad because I don't think that there's a lot of bigs like that in the East. Because they definitely do give us trouble. I think Mitchell Robinson is probably your standout guy in the East who could maybe play like that and give us a lot of problems. But I don't know, the bruiser bigs who have average footwork always give us problems. It feels like. Justin, same question to you. Level of concern. Donovan Mitchell check in. Everybody else playing around him. How's it looking?
Yeah. So the last three games specifically, I'll stick to that right now. I think what Logan said about the game last night specifically and going back to the Orlando game, I think watching what I watched and seeing what I saw, you want Donovan to do what he did in the Orlando game where he takes over and kind of just chucks up shots. I'll get to why in a minute there. But you definitely don't want to see him take away and take those type of shots in this game last night with Sacramento, where Evan Mobley is very clearly the best player on the court and handling business. Now, when I say, hey, he, like Logan said, had a lot of ISOs, had a lot of truck shots and everything. In the Orlando game, to the point in the fourth quarter, I believe it was probably 10 or 8 minutes in or whatever, the only person on the team that had hit multiple threes was Donovan at that point. Everyone else at that point in time at the game had only hit 1 3. I believe Darius might have ended the game with 2 made threes. But the overarching thing that I've gone back and looked at in the losing streaks, at least, is that when the Cavs lose these games, it is primarily because they are taking far more threes than the other team and also making far less of them. And of course, that happens when you take a large shot quantity of threes. But the one game in that previous 3-game losing streak, if you guys remember, wasn't too long ago, but it was the loss to Houston, loss to Philly, loss to Houston. In the first Houston and the Philly games, both times shot more threes, shot a lower percentage, lost those games. The interesting thing about the second Houston game is the team shot out of this world. They shot way better, way more threes than Houston, and still lost. However, the big outlier there was they also took I'm going to just read it out loud for you guys. So they took a total of 32 to 45 threes, the Rockets. So they shot 71.1%, which isn't great from free throw line. But when you look at 76.9 off of 20 for 26, you're like, hey, we probably should have won that game, especially when we didn't shoot better from 3, but we were also, hey, not missing nearly as many free throws. That's my thing where, like, there's a lot of discrepancies with some of these losses and where you kind of have to go back and see, all right, like, is there a theme? Is there something that's not really working? And of course, guys in and out, whatever. Garland's out one night, Evans out one night, whatever. You need to win these games regardless. But I think it is interesting to know that, like, we've talked about what the construction of this team is now that we're so far into the season. I think we've landed on a version of the Golden State Warriors. And I think the only issue that you really, rely on with that type of architecture is that if your 3-point shooters aren't knocking down the threes, your team's going to struggle, especially when you don't have a Steph who's going to eventually light up. I don't think Donovan is Steph-like where, he's missed early. Doesn't matter. Third, fourth quarter comes around. He can pull, he can start pulling up and start draining 3 to 4 threes. I don't think that's happening. I do think he can get on a heater driving to the basket, but that's not what he was doing in these games. So I do think that there is part of, I think you could absolutely go and say last night, Donovan doing a little bit too much. In the Orlando game, I think that's kind of what you're looking for, but I think he's kind of taken it to a degree now where you're like, all right, Kenny needs to pull him aside, have a conversation and be like, hey, we're kind of getting to the last 13 games here. You need to figure it out. We need to figure it out. It's going to go hand in hand. But when it comes to playoff time, this is a different team. You can rely on your guys. You can rely on your role players. So, guys will get healthy. We'll get back into it. But, ashamed to see some of these losses.
Jeffrey, before I let you get going, I'm sorry. I have one more thing that I will say is a tiny bit concerning. I think it was just last week we talked about how good this team is in clutch time and closing games. That, I guess, if there's a concern I have the last 3 games, especially that Clippers loss, because the final score all of a sudden just got really ugly, like kind of out of nowhere. Then you talk about the Kings game. You got a 3-point lead with, I think, 3 minutes left, and they kind of pretty much control the rest of the game, the Kings do. And then you talk about the Orlando game again. I think all 3 of these games, well, maybe not as much in the Clippers. I think we had like an early 10-point lead like in the second quarter against Clippers. But all these games, you had leads. All these games were tight at some point in the fourth quarter, or at least 2 of them were, and you did not execute down the stretch. Like I would say we got thoroughly out-executed down the stretch in a couple of these games. Yep. That's something that's been so good for the Cavs. Closing quarters, closing games. Oh, God, we've had a really rough night here against Portland. We're down 16. All right, we're right back in it. Okay, we won. Like, there definitely wasn't any of that these last couple of games. And I'll be honest, like next game, I'm sitting here like, I don't want to lose 4 in a row. I really don't. And like, can they pull it out? And that's part of being a sports fan. When things are going rough and things aren't going right, you're like, it's you can't switch up. Obviously, this Cavalier team is a very good team, but it's definitely something that we're not used to. It's totally unfamiliar. So it kind of changes your viewpoint and gives you new perspective.
Yeah, so I got this 3-game losing streak. It's not the first time we've seen it this year. I got a couple of things that is just going to be part of reality, I think, for the rest of the year until we get into the playoffs. So unfortunately, this organization and franchise in the past couple of years, the reputation precedes itself. So you have the allegations of being a second half collapser and then a little bit fraudulent in the playoffs. Okay. That's still something you have to get over. Even with the win streak this year, you still have to exercise those demons. That's fine. That's cool. That's really an intangible. Number two, I think a big thing for me is going to be, like you said, Justin, 3-pointers. Here's my playoff. I'm getting ready to lock in a playoff formula for this team, and it's pretty simple. And I think that could be a good thing and a bad thing. Take high quality 3-point attempts. So don't chuck up the ball. That's pretty much number one. You have to win the rebounding battle. You just can't, you're not going to win these games, especially against these, competent big men, if you don't rebound the basketball. You've seen that the past couple of nights. And I mean, the Kings didn't even have, their best rebounder last night. So a little bit startling. Number 3, last 10 games, 78% from the free throw line. That's not going to cut it in the playoff setting, in my opinion. Like you got to be at least looking at closer to 83, 85%. As far as, if you want to win playoff games against really good teams, I don't know. Everything looks a little bit discombobulated, like everybody's tired, and that very well may be the case. The 3-pointers aren't going in. The free throw line isn't very good.
I feel like the free throw line's kind of been an issue all year. Is that just me? Or
it has been, but I feel like they've made free throws except for Garland a couple of times, they made free throws when they've needed to, and then it's like I see these guys go to the line in the fourth quarter and like it's front iron, and it's, I don't know, it doesn't even like look competitive, but. And they've shown multiple times this year that they could lose, multiple games in a row. So if you lose 3 games in a row in a playoff series, you're super unlikely to win that playoff series. So they have the potential to go into these little slumps. My concern level is not overly high, especially if we're talking about a round 1, playoff appearance. I don't think that. And like I said, we all hope to be wrong, but once again, I still don't think people who are on X, our analysts who even cover the game still, I still don't think people really understand how much different playoff basketball is than regular season basketball. Because if it's a round 1 matchup against Orlando or Miami, I think you're going to see a lot of pundits, maybe not Orlando, but I think you're going to see a lot of pundits say, oh, this is a 4-0 sweep, Cavs win every game by 15. I don't think it's going to be like that. It could be. Do we have the potential to do that? Absolutely. But that's not how playoff basketball works. Everything slows down. The half court sets become that much more important. The last thing here before I want to go back to Justin and I want to talk about, because we're getting there, gentlemen. We're getting to the point. I want to talk playoff rotations. I put a tweet out last night. I want to hear your guys' opinions on it. What I've been really concerned about these last 2 games, and every team goes through this when you're on the road, is that these West Coast crowds, to me, have been impressive. The Intuit Dome was really loud. I was really impressed with when they were showing that stadium around. That place looks sick. I think I got to get out there and look and go into that place in person because it looks amazing. And then last night, and I know Sacramento faithful, they have good fans out there. It seems like some of the crowd and the momentum and just that extra element has been a little bit of a thorn in our side these past couple of games, as far as, losing 3 in a row. But I'm curious to hear what Justin says about this. I put this out last night. I think Kenny's playoff rotation looks like this: Donovan, DG, Allen, Mobley, Strus, Hunter, Wade, Jerome, Okoro, and Okoro might be pushing it. Justin, how deep do you think Kenny goes? Do we see Sam Merrill? Do we see minutes of Javonte Green? Is there a world where Tristan Thompson plays playoff minutes? I just want to hear your thoughts.
I think there's always going to be guys who get straggler minutes depending on scenarios and everything. But the biggest thing for me, and I think this is perfect, honestly. I don't think there's a rhyme or reason to how they're listed and anything. But I think that obviously Hunter and Jerome being your 2 guys off the bench is going to be huge. The craziest thing for me, and Jeff is completely right about when he's saying that the change from regular season to playoff basketball is completely different. If you go back to last year's regular season, Donovan Mitchell averaged 35 minutes per game. Darius Garland averaged 33, Max Strus 32, Jared Allen 31, and Evan Mobley 30. Well, then in the postseason last year, those numbers jumped to 38 for Mitchell, 36 for Strus, 36 to Garland, 35 to Mobley, and 31 for Allen. So you pretty much want your guys playing 3 full quarters in the playoffs, your starters. And that's huge. I think that's very important. And last year, you can see that obviously they did end up playing a bit more from, the regular season, the postseason. I just want to tell you guys something. Right now, Donovan Mitchell stands at 31 minutes. If he played 38 minutes in the playoffs, he'd be playing 6 to 7 more minutes than what he already has.
Yep.
And that's going to go along for practically everyone, because Darius is at 30, Evans at 30. You're going to think those guys are going to get 36 minutes at least. That's going to be the huge thing here, guys. I think all season long, we kind of talked about how, Donovan's not going to win MVP. Oh, Darius isn't going to win most improved or comeback player of the year or whatever. And it's a lot of the reason because guys around the league, Jason Tatum's already playing 35 minutes. Jaylen Brown's already playing 34 minutes. A lot of teams have already played a lot of these guys a lot of minutes. Go and look at the terrorism in New York and tell me what the minutes per game is over there, and then what it goes up to during the playoffs. Because, there's probably not much difference outside of that. It's like
Thibs kind of runs them like a playoff rotation all year long, though. But when push comes to shove,
there's something to be said, and maybe there's something to be said there, Jeff. Maybe. I am thinking and hoping that Kenny has had these guys rested, had these guys kind of just tamed through the year, and that once we get into the playoffs, these guys take another 5+ minutes, and hopefully, from what we see, we gather, okay, we don't need that 9th guy, really. Really, when you talk about a playoff rotation, you want 2 starters in all the time, if not 3. So there's your point in end of discussion of is Okoro going to make it? I think so at times. Is Merrill going to make it? I think so at times. Is CPJ going to make it? Probably not. I think we tap out at the guard position there. Is what's Buddy's name?
Javonte
Green. He might see minutes. Tristan, maybe, but at this
Hopefully
point
not.
now, because you got Hunter, because you've essentially built the roster the way it is, your 1 through 8 is perfect in my opinion. Your 1 through 9 is just very versatile. So I think what you put up there is perfect, Jeff. I think the minute distribution is going to be crazy when we see it towards the end of the playoffs.
Yep.
Hopefully after a championship. But I think there's going to be a lot to take away from this first playoff year of Kenny Atkinson in comparison to JB, and hopefully it will be in the rotations, but we'll see.
Logan, similar question to you, honestly, but what's your gauge right now of that 8 through 10 kind of spot? Okoro, Merrill, how are you feeling about guys like that?
Well, I said and told, I kind of got on JB Bickerstaff's butt the last couple of seasons saying just because it's the playoffs doesn't mean you only have to play 8 guys. If you remember 2 years ago, I was like, play Raul Neto, play Danny Green. These are guys that want the moment more right
Marcus
now.
Morris.
Those are guys get things done. Marcus Morris last year.
Yep.
I did push those agendas, so I'll push them on Kenny. I'm interested to see how Kenny handles that, right? But I also think that Kenny, unlike JB, has a much more formidable 8 than JB had to work with.
Sure.
JB had to work with guys like Jetty off the bench, and I think after Jetty, it got really foggy with that Cavalier bench at times, especially Okoro with his lapses, and sometimes Okoro started, sometimes he didn't. Levert was here, Levert was kind of not there. I do think Kenny has it easier in the regard that there is 8 really solid basketball players that can play regular minutes on this team. But that being said, we've praised Kenny for adjustments, for things that he's done, for realizing what matchups that are going on, what's the flow of the game. He's very good at understanding the flow of the game and how to make adjustments. I think I've given Kenny his flowers for that, and I'll continue to give it flowers for that despite the 3-game losing streak right now. Justin says no CPJ. I'm all about if there's a stretch where we need a boost, CPJ, and I'm sure Justin is as well. The question is, does Kenny, make that move? Okoro, if we see another, I swear to God, if we see another rough playoff series from Okoro where he's a non-factor offensively, at least to keep the defense honest, similar with Dean Wade. I think there's a lot of pressure on Wade to perform in these playoffs because I think he's going to be a big not X factor, because that sounds like we win or lose with this guy, but I do think we win a whole lot more with this guy. So I think it's just up to Kenny, right? I totally agree with your rotation. I think it's spot on. I think that's what the rotation is. But I'd like to see Kenny get creative in some moments because there's going to be a lot of times in these playoffs where we're looking at the court and going, we have no shot with the 5 guys that are on the court right now. This is not getting it done. I even said, I think yesterday, I said I loved that lineup of Jerome, Strus, Hunter, Wade, and Allen. Like I thought that was a lot of fun. I think you have a lot of pieces and a lot of different ways you can go. It's all to Kenny to make those pieces fit. If there's anybody that can do it, I trust Kenny with it. So my point is, yeah, I like Justin's point. I like 8. I don't really like 9, but I also think you can play 9 through 11 if it calls for it. So does Kenny have it in him to make those moves in a high stakes, high pressure game? We'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've always been a detractor of Merrill playing in the playoffs. I think he's too volatile.
I don't think I want to see Merrill. I'll say that much.
He's like a 3-4 minute guy, literally.
Right. He's hot, go for it.
Sub him in, call 2 back-to-back offensive sets for him and get him shots. And if he makes both of them, keep him in. If he misses both of them, just take him out.
A good team, unfortunately, I feel like the Boston series will just absolutely.
He can't play against Boston.
I just feel like if you go up against a good coach, the scheme is already figured out for Merrill. Like if they get into the game, everyone knows what's going to happen. Like the top of the key threes, and I think that's just one of those things where it's like you can't play a guy like that. Okoro, like you said, is on the border because his defense is great. It's great, but at the same time, I can't have the dude in big time in the fourth quarter when we're going tick for tack. I can't have dudes sitting in the corner and just not being able to drill a shot or being too afraid to take the shot.
I will give the credit, and this is, I think, a little bit to Atkinson, obviously, as well, but the credit that I do want to give Altman out of everything is that last playoffs, and I know this is kind of crazy to think about, but last playoffs, we were asking, even if it was hit 3 or 4 shots from deep from Okoro or Wade. Now I really truly think this postseason, you could play Okoro and just be like, hey, we need you to be a lockdown defender. That's it. Hit 1 or 2 threes when you're called upon, like you kind of saw last night in the Sacramento game. Same with Wade. To me, and this is going to be controversial, maybe a little bit, in a series, let's say, all right, if Wade continues to play minutes and there's no small injury from now until the postseason, if push comes to shove, I'm starting Wade at the 3 in a Boston series. I am. Bring Hunter and Strus off the bench. I think that's what makes the most sense if you're playing a team like the Celtics. Other teams, the Miamis, maybe even like Detroit. Yeah, I don't know if you could start Wade. I don't know if they will start Wade. That's just my opinion when it comes to a team that he plays good against and a team that I think we need the size at that 3 position more than anything. And yeah, could you start Hunter and probably get away with it? That's another thing too, going back to kind of our original discussion. The Strus and Hunter discussions on start bench is heating up, which I'm not a huge fan of this late into the season. It's a little, I know we've had injuries. I know you had the Strus injury. I know Wade has been in and out, and I know Hunter was an acquisition at the deadline, but it's getting a little startling that we're having starting 3 conversations still at March 20th. I'm sure that that's something that they talk about and that they hopefully know what's going on for the playoffs, and maybe it is matchup dependent, but it's stuff like that. And the last thing here before we go to predictions, I don't know if I said this last week and if I said it so definitively. I'm going to say it now because it's something I've kind of always believed, regardless of the player. I'm not singling out and picking on Donovan Mitchell, but if you're not a top 3 guy, I think this can be said for anybody. The hero ball Donovan Mitchell will lose us a playoff series. It will. The other side of that coin is, can hero ball Donovan Mitchell take us to the finals? It absolutely could. But the team, the offense, the Atkinson scheme, the 1 through 8 has a better chance of taking us to the finals and winning us a finals than Donovan chucking up 25 shots a night. It just does. Last year, I don't think you could say that. It wasn't definitively true. 2 years ago, you definitely couldn't say that. The Orlando series, you don't win without Donovan Mitchell hero ball. It's not that this year. I need coaches to recognize that. I need players to recognize that. I need the offense to work organically, and whoever's going through the progressions. I think last night, if Darius is playing, we probably win that game down the stretch because he's handling the ball. That's just my opinion. But it's interesting. We got 13 games left. We have stuff to predict, and we'll go from there. I don't know how we're going to predict these next couple of games. This is the first time all year I've kind of been like, I don't really know what's going on with these guys. Who's playing, who's not. We knew he was going to get to this, but I don't know. I mean, 3 more games on the West Coast. It's not good. Logan's sitting at 55-14.
Jeff,
I'm over here.
Catch him.
Dude, I can't. I just had a complete whiff over here, and I knew we were going to lose this Clippers game too, but I just couldn't, bring myself to do it. But Logan, you want to kick us off here in Phoenix against a team that's dysfunctional, but
they're fighting for the playoffs now. Play-in.
I totally think that they're fighting for the playoffs, but for God's sake, can Kevin Durant get some bad press?
No, his PR team
why
is too
does
good.
the media just never give him crap? Failed in Brooklyn, failed in this Phoenix scheme.
Steph Curry made him. Failed in OKC, to be honest with you, but we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, but he was a good guy at that time.
He's still the GOAT.
Pre-villain. He is not the GOAT.
KD is a super talented player, but I'm so sick of the fact that he can fail over and over and doesn't get the same. Maybe that's just me being a LeBron defender, and it's I'm so tired of that crap. But
I hear you.
I mean, Jeffrey, this is probably the week that you could maybe grab ground. I don't know what I'm going to do. I always said I'm going to go Cavs till I'm proven otherwise. I don't know if I can really live in a world where we lose 4 straight. So I will take us against the Suns purely in the fact that they're dysfunctional and we're on a losing streak. There's a significant difference.
I kind of like that thought process too, to be honest with you. Oh, I'm bolded. Love it. Justin, do you have any? Are you going to dissent here?
I mean, I would have to in order to try and catch up at this point. They've just played absolute bungo teams is the problem. So we're still on this West Coast trip. Here's the thing. The 13 games, I hate the last 4 of them for us. They're so stupid.
They are bad.
I look at them and I'm like, are we going to rest? Are we going to
Is Donovan, you think Donovan's going to play against Utah? I don't really care because we're going to win that game. They're in absolute tanking mode, but
I'll just go Phoenix for the difference of it.
I don't know. I think the Jazz is.
I'm pretty sure that's and you can put me for Cavs for the rest of it because that's just how I feel. But I think the Suns are absolutely fighting right now, and that's the only thing that I have for them.
This feels like back-to-back trap games, if I'm being honest. We also don't play historically good in Utah.
I'll just round us out. I'll just round myself out there because that's
losing 4 games in a row. This fucking fandom's going to be going nuts. So
people are already losing it on X.
Yeah.
Jeez, I'm honestly kind of torn. I really don't like the idea. I just can't see us losing to Utah, so I'll go Cavs. But I kind of agree with you, Jeffrey. The Blazers game feels like a total trap game where late night in Portland against a team that's got young legs, we're a little bit weary, definitely travel weary at that
final
point.
Game of the
I was going to
trip.
say, I see them mailing that game in more than anything because we're back in Cleveland on the 27th to play the Spurs.
Yeah, I'm going to mirror you, Jeffrey. I know it doesn't help your chances to come back, but I kind of do agree with you.
We're cooked.
All
right, a little variety here, though. Okay, I don't know. This, once again, the scheduling department in some of these leagues kind of concerns me. We haven't seen the Clippers until now. Oh, we haven't seen the Kings. And whose decision was
that? And
that?
we're going to see New York twice in the last 2 weeks and the Pacers twice in the last 3 games.
Yeah, we've hardly seen Indiana this year, have we? And that's a team that I want to see us stack up to because they haven't been very good at it.
I will say, as far as confidence and trending up, these last 13 games have the potential to hurt the Cavs' confidence, I think. I mean, this West Coast road trip, that's getting out of hand a little bit. It could continue to spiral. It's not like Phoenix is awful. I mean, we played them so good the last time we played them on MLK Day. But then you play you still have to play Detroit. You still have to play the Clippers again. You play, like Justin said, the Knicks twice, Sacramento again, Indy 2 more times. So could be interesting here. Justin, final thoughts before we wrap up here.
Yeah, I just think I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see rest in those last couple of weeks. But as far as this road trip goes and just recency of everything. I think they just need to have a reset at this point. They probably need to come home and get some home cooking done, and that's about it. I think that this trip needs to end, and that's how.
Fair enough. Logan?
Yeah. I don't know much to say. I mean,
Right.
kind of similar to Justin. It's like, yeah, I think this team just needs to get home, needs to stay healthy. Might have to mail in a few games, whether that makes us mad or not. I think definitely one thing I'll say is, I didn't think we are going to win 70 games. I kind of thought we were going to start losing some games here down the stretch. But I kind of felt pretty good about the idea of beating 66-16, the franchise record, which is a pretty wild thing to think about, that LeBron James led a team of like Ben Wallace, Delonte West, and Mo Williams to 66 wins. As good as this season's been, it's hard to believe that we might not reach that number, which is a pretty wild thought, but the NBA is very talented, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever. Get back home, get this back on the roll. I think a win against Phoenix would be big for our psyche. I think you lose to Phoenix, I could see us kind of going maybe 1-4 on this road trip. So just my thought process.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just take it back to kind of what I said earlier too. It's like, take high quality 3-pointers. Please make your free throws. It's like, it's not, I think, and I don't, all right, first round exit. Yeah. Not going to be stomachable. Like, I can't defend a first round exit. I could defend I could go on with my life and sleep good at night if you run into a team that's playing really good basketball in the second round and they like play just as good. They play as good as you or better. And even if it takes you 7 games to win that series or something goes south, I don't want to cast doubts into the universe, but like, just play. If we play to our potential, I don't see a lot of teams being able to beat us in a 7-game setting. That's just me, even at this moment, losing 3 in a row. If you do stupid shit, if you're taking 53s a night and 35 of them are bad, and you missed, if you shoot 20 free throws and you miss 7 of them and you lose games, I don't know what to tell you. It's not going to be stomachable. It's like, just do the consistent things you've been doing all year long. And if another team outplays you, if you run into Boston or any of these teams down the stretch, for example, take the playoffs out of it. If you run into New York and they're playing good ball and it's actually better than you, if you run into Indy and, they make 50% of their threes and out rebound you because they're just, that's how they're playing. That's fine. It's not rocket science down the stretch here. And that's the difference between these last couple of years. We've been fighting to try to stay relevant, try to stay in that 4th or 5th seed conversation with JB down the stretch. Now it's like, all right, maintain your health. 1 seed is pretty much there and, see what the playoffs holds for you. But if you're still here, like button, comment down below. How have you felt these last 3 games, losing to, Orlando, the Clippers, and then the Kings? Make sure you're subscribed, hitting that bell notification. And with that being said, we appreciate you being the pulse of it all. Peace.